here. So we've been going through the 10 Commandments. Okay, the 10 Commandments. This one is my favorite one so far because it really, today, we put it all together. So the 10 Commandments originally, they were the laws that Moses brought to the Hebrew people thousands of years ago. And the laws taught about right action between people and God and people and each other. And by living in these laws, they could create peace and harmony in their own lives and in their relationships during a time when life was really, really hard. And so we can actually experience that peace and harmony also because these are timeless truths. Spiritual wisdom lives on in these laws, these commandments, no matter when we read them. So time travel into the future, 300 years, and you'll see it even probably in a deeper way. But they remain a vehicle of transformation, and so that's what we are going through with these lessons that we're having. Okay, so I'm going to just kind of summarize the first 4 commandments here, because they're about right action toward God. So we have our first commandment, thou shalt have no other gods before me. At a deeper level, this is about viewing God as the source of our supply. Only God, not the conditions. Conditions out there can't control us. They cannot take our power away from us. They cannot take away our way of thinking. So there may be conditions out there we have to live in, like if it's 118 degrees outside, or if it's not. But it can't control us. So we just see God as the ultimate source because God is what works through us, for us, as us. Second commandment, you shall not make false idols. Any idol would be a false idol. And so for the Hebrew people, what that idol looked like was, well, we're out here in the desert, and Moses has been on that mountain a long time, and things don't seem to be working, so God may not be hearing us. So let's create another idol, and maybe that idol can help us. Well, our false idols in our life are our beliefs of lack and limitation. So our false idol might look like, well, if I just fix this thing out here, then everything will be okay. So we're being controlled by our conditions. So taking that commandment deeper, thou shalt not make false idols, is thou shalt not think thoughts of lack. Shall not think thoughts of lack. Our third commandment, you shall not speak the Lord's name in vain. Remember the Lord told Moses his name, I am that I am. And so when we take this commandment deeper, it is about not speaking the word of lack or limitation. Now, lack or limitation, it might pop into our head, but still when it's in our head, we can do something about it. We can be like, well, that was so wrong. I'm not seeing God as the ultimate source in my life, okay? But once we speak it, we're buying into it. And so speaking the Lord's name is in vain. We're claiming something. I am having a hard time with this. I can't do this. I am not smart enough. I am too this or too that to make this happen. Okay, we're claiming limitation when we speak those words. The way we don't take the Lord's name in vain is if we say something like, I am the channel of a divine program calling forth good into this world. I am divinely designed to thrive no matter what's going on out here. We have our fourth commandment, remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy. For the Hebrews, they worked really hard for 6 days, and then they took the 7th day to rest and recuperate and prepare for the next cycle of work. And so for us, as we take that deeper, it's about letting go and letting God do its part. So we do what we can do, like we plant a garden, but then we have to let go and let what happens in that garden happen. We don't want to try to micromanage a garden. Okay, go out there and dig up all those seeds after a day. It's like, what is wrong with you? You must grow. Okay, so we don't want to micromanage that. Our whole life is a metaphor for that garden. Okay, that's our metaphor. So we let go and let God by doing what we do, doing our part, and then we let God do its part. And then we receive more instruction and other inspiration. Then we do our part, and then we wait. And then we let God give us more inspiration. We let the things happen that are going to happen. Okay, so those are the first 4 commandments concerned with our interaction, how we interrelate with God, okay, the indwelling spirit. The last 6 commandments are about right action toward other humans, right? But commandments 5 through 9 are outer actions. And so we have the 5th commandment, honor your father and mother, right? We honor our mother and father because they gave us life. We're here on this planet now to call forth more good, all because of our parents. And so here now we get to be a vessel and do the best with what we've got, with where we are, however that looks, all because of that. Now to take this to a deeper level, we remember every single person on this planet is the activity of God in this world. Every single person on this planet has that divine spark within them. Now there are some people that we interact with, and great good comes forth through them and comes into our life. So this commandment is about honoring how God is working through other people to benefit us. We honor them, okay? People, situations, some good comes our way, and we honor where that came from. Then we've got the 6th commandment. You shall not commit murder. This is a really obvious one. This is the most obvious one out of all the commandments, because we don't justify this, right? Well, I guess somebody could. But when somebody is murdered, the life is cut off from them. There's no more life active through them. So to take this to a deeper level, this is about how we shall not take our wealth or our good out of circulation. When we hang on to our money, when we hang on to our time, when we hang on to our talents, the gifts that we could be giving, because we're worried if we give too much, we may not get it back, we're actually hoarding our gifts. We're not actively participating in the flow of good in our lives. There's this law of divine compensation. And somehow, if we're hanging on to stuff, then what we're doing is creating stagnation in our lives, so we're not getting back the greater good that we are designed to receive. This circulation in our lives, this is what we're designed to do. This giving and receiving is a constant thing in our lives. Think about the air you breathe. Are you going to inhale a nice deep breath and hang on to that? Because what if you can't get more? Well, what if that's the loss of the oxygen? Well, what are all these people in here doing, drinking my oxygen, or breathing my oxygen? I'm going to have to breathe extra hard right now. Okay, that's the law of circulation. That'd be crazy to try to hang on to our air. All right, so then we've got the 7th commandment. Thou shalt not commit adultery. Adultery is about making choices that dishonor people in relationships, right? It dishonors the relationship. To take this to a deeper level, it's about dishonoring our good. It's about wasting and desecrating the good that is meant to come through us, for us, as us, and out into our lives. And so we're putting our good to dishonorable uses, all right? And so this could be like a charming con person using their charm to swindle people instead of using their charm to inspire people, okay? Commandment number 8, thou shalt not steal. Well, this is, of course we know this, it's seeking something for nothing. And that's actually the deeper meaning of this. We shall not seek something for nothing. Again, with the law of divine compensation, Jesus said, you've received so much, go out and give greater than you received. He told this to his disciples. So we receive, we give greater. But then we receive greater. And then we give greater, right? And this is how we're creating expansion in our lives. If we're seeking something for nothing, we're not in this cycle, right? We're not expanding anything. We're focusing on conditions, so we're limiting ourselves. Chapter 9. Commandment 9. Chapter 9. You shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. Taking this to a deeper level, because bearing false witness against a neighbor, that's about, saying things that maybe imply they're not a good person. So then other people are like, oh, really? Did you hear that? Okay. So this commandment at a deeper level is about not speaking false witness against God's good. All right, and so we're here to tell the truth about God's abundance, because that's how we created it in our lives, but that's how we help other people create it in our lives too. So when we are not speaking the truth about God's abundance, usually what happens is we're blaming conditions, right? Well, this thing happened, so I can't create my good. And now I'm just a victim of life, and things are really hard. And then there was that other thing too, and well, now I can't do this other thing I wanted, right? We're not going in here to get inspiration on how to work within the conditions that we're given. We don't understand when we're bearing false witness against God's good, we aren't solution-oriented, we're problem-oriented. And that's a problem, because then we stay in the problem. So today, we come to the 10th commandment. The 10th commandment. We're done today. So this is the 10th commandment. And it's a long one. You shall not covet your neighbor's house. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife. You shall not covet your neighbor's male or female slave, or their ox, or their donkey, or anything that belongs to your neighbor. Don't covet anything that belongs to your neighbor. Not a thing. Now, when you look at the first 4 commandments about our relationship with God, the next 5 commandments are about actions we take in this world. This commandment is about our inner activity. It's about how we're thinking and what that thinking leads to. Now, if we are not managing our thinking, then we end up breaking the first 4 commandments. Now, if we break the first 4 commandments, that can lead to lying, stealing, cheating, murdering, right? If you can read the paper or listen to the news, and lying, stealing, cheating, murdering, these are all things people have done to try to get something their way. Okay, so I wanted to define covet, because I was kind of thinking, well, isn't coveting something just envying? Now, when we envy someone, we're looking at something they have, and we wish it was ours, and maybe we resent a little bit that they have our thing, and life doesn't seem fair. But coveting it is taking it to the next level. Okay, so now we obsess with it. They've got my thing, and while they have that thing I want, I don't have it, so I can't be happy in my life until I get that thing. So we're longing for that thing. We have such a great desire for that thing that our neighbor has that we cannot be happy in our own lives. And actually, we dishonor our own life when we see that thing, and how only if we get that, then we can be happy. So we're not honoring all the good that's already in our life, that like has done so much for us. Okay, so, when we covet, I was thinking about this. When we covet something, this is where we want to create a manifesto against that person, right? It's like, oh, what's my poison? What am I going to use on them? Okay. When we are coveting something, we're not seeing God as the ultimate authority in our life. We're not seeing God as the only source of our inspiration, or our only source of good. So we don't get that source of inspiration. We're not connected in to that source of inspiration. Okay, or our inner resourcefulness, the bright ideas, the guidance, which will always take us to the next best thing in our life, so that we're not problem-oriented, we're always solution-oriented. We're not looking then for the opportunities. We don't see the opportunities. We don't see the open doors. And we certainly don't experience the courage that it takes to act on those opportunities and to walk through those open doors. Okay, if we're focusing on something outside of our life that belongs to somebody else that we can't have, and we think we can't be happy until we have what they have. So we fail to see that the universe is constantly, consistently conspiring for our good. All the time. You can't believe I just said that, huh? You're like, wow, that was a lot of tongue twisters. The universe is conspiring for our good all the time. And whenever we're focused on a condition, we don't see that. We don't see all the ways all the doors is flinging open for us. So a deeper look at this commandment, that you shall not covet all your neighbor's good stuff, is you shall not limit yourself by coveting that which is another. You shall claim your own good. That's the deeper look. Claim your own good, claim your own good, claim your own good. Don't wish for somebody else's. When we are coveting or wishing for someone else's stuff to make our life better, we're seeing their stuff as a source of our supply. So we move out of this by claiming our own good. We claim our own good through our own acts of faith. Okay, not by taking somebody else's good. We claim our own good through our acts of faith. So an act of faith, when we take an act of faith or participate in an act of faith, we're honoring the activity of God in ourselves and in other people by doing something. Faith is in action. So what happens is that our faith starts in our desire for something, and that desire for something is a soul-inspired desire. And the soul-inspired desire is the first step in our creative process. Right? Although we may not see it as a first step because it just seems to happen to us in our head. And so it's like, wow, now I have to do something. But that's the first step in our creative process. The creative process is a divine program that each of us have within us. And if we follow that program, that's how we call forth more good into our lives. That's how we call forth the good that we're desiring to see happen in our lives, is through a creative process. In the book Lessons in Truth by Emily Cady, she says, desire for anything is the thing itself in its incipiency. So in divine mind, it's already a done deal. It's already there. If you want a garden, out here it may look like a field. In divine mind, there's already a flourishing garden, an abundant garden. So we get our soul-inspired desire from source, from God, okay, from the universe, whatever you want to call it. So how do we know? Because we might think if we're coveting somebody's stuff, we might think, well, that's my desire. Okay, well, we have a soul-inspired desire, but then we have our ego's desire. Okay, the little desires, right? In Unity, we call that the little me. And so the ego's desires are, I'll explain the difference here. I'll do that, okay? So when we have a soul-inspired desire, it brings along the means to make it so. And so we feel the enthusiasm and the excitement, and we get the divine direction. But the ego-inspired desire, it wants us to change something out there so we can be happy. An ego-inspired desire will look like, well, I'm not happy right now because I don't have the thing I want. Well, soul-inspired desire is going to be like, yeah, things are so good right now, let's add more good to our life. Soul-inspired desire is not going to disrespect any part of our lives. Okay, so with a soul-inspired desire, we will get inspired and we'll start imagining that thing in our life. We'll get enthusiastic. We'll feel excited, right? We can actually see like what life will look like when it happens, like when it comes to fruition in our life. So we're feeling enthusiasm and excitement. If it is an ego-inspired desire, we feel envy. We feel envy because we don't have it yet and somebody else has got it, and it's not fair. Not fair. So with a soul-inspired desire, we get inspired, we're excited, and then the next thing that happens after we've tried it on in our imagination is we get an inspiration that tells us the next thing to do, to take an action. Now this is where faith becomes action. So maybe the soul-inspired desire is, and they don't have to be big things, they are all shapes and sizes. Soul-inspired desire could be, well, I want to write a book. Or I want to arrange a potluck at the park with my friends, okay? Or I want to paint my living room. Okay, they come in all shapes and sizes. So we will receive direction to do something to move us there. So the direction might sound like, okay, you want to write a book? Sit down and start writing right now. Okay, if you want to get your education or go for your master's, go online and look at the courses and see how you need to get started. If you want to have a potluck at the park with your friends, make a list of your friends who and pick a day and start calling everybody. Okay, so we get an instruction to take action to create that in our life. Now we're going to feel some of these things, like we might feel a little scared. If you don't like to call people on the phone, you might be like, I have to text a bunch of people that I love, but it's just weird for me to be on the phone. But it might be like a book. Okay, I want to write a book, but what if I sit down and I don't even know what to say? And like, what if I just have a title and then I just sit there and stare at a title and Like, then what if I find out I'm not really a writer? Okay, and so we're going to have these things pop into our head. That's totally natural for those. This is why this is an action of faith, because we're doing it anyway. We decide, okay, I'm going to sit down and do it anyway. If it was all that easy, their faith wouldn't be involved. Okay, it wouldn't be involved. So here's where we're making a choice. And now what happens is the little voice of our adversary is going to pop in. And again, this is what makes it an action of faith. Is so we sit down and we start typing, or we start painting, or now we hear this voice. It's like, who are you to think you can even do this? What if people laugh at you? What if nobody likes the color that you painted the living room? You know, what if you can't reach the high spots? What if you get it all over the rug? What if your book, like, everybody laughs at it and says, like, oh my gosh, like, didn't you get somebody to edit it? Can't you spell? Okay, so there's going to be a lot of that voice coming at us with a lot of good reasons, like why we shouldn't do this thing that we are excited about doing. But see, here is where we have the opportunity again to claim our good through an act of faith. We just do it anyway, even though it's going to change our lives in some way, even though it may take some effort, even though for sure we're probably going to have to go out of our comfort zone. We just go ahead and do it anyway. Now, it's going through this process and acting on faith. That's the big thing here. Acting on faith. That's what calls forth the greater good into our life. It's that. It's the acting on the faith. It's acting on faith is like the magnet, right, that brings it here. See, faith is not sitting around and saying, oh, you know, one of these days I'm going to get so inspired and write that book. I know it's going to happen one day. One day, maybe the book will write itself. Right? Has that ever worked? Has any writer who's like got Stephen King? Is that how he started? I don't know. Okay, but so faith is not just sitting and praying for it and then just hoping for the best. It's doing something also. That's the action of faith. Faith must be demonstrated. And we demonstrate it in big and small ways. Faith without action is like a sailboat without a sail. Faith without action is like a car without an engine. Faith without action is like anything?
Microphone without electricity.
Microphone without electricity. Okay, but we could go on, right? We're not going to get very far. So think about this. We're designed to be here and right now, to create heaven on earth. Heaven on earth. Think about our world right now and creating heaven on earth. Do you think just sitting and praying about it is enough? It's a good start. It's the perfect start. But then we have to take some sort of action, because we have the faith that we are here to participate in the big cosmic plan of creating heaven on earth. We're all pieces of this. All these moving parts are all involved in this one thing, creating heaven on earth. So it's going to take effort. So we pray, and then we think about what do we do? Because we're changing from here, and then it ripples out into our life, and then it ripples out into the world. Right? Into our community, into the world. That's how we're creating heaven on earth, is we're doing the little things here, and we're calling forth the good through us and into our life. That's the first thing that we're doing. Okay, so this is again why the cycle of giving and receiving is so important. We just receive something. Now we give something. A little bigger, a little more. It's an act of faith to give more than what we have just received, because it's out of our comfort zone. Anything we have just received to give back a little bit more is out of our comfort zone. But we give it, right? We're like, okay, universe, bring it on. Challenge accepted. Give a little more. Then we receive more. And then we give a little more. And then we receive more. And look, it's this expansion. And it's the expansion that we're taking because of our faith-based actions and spreading all the good stuff that is creating heaven on earth. So it all starts with our soul-inspired desire for all the good that we're creating in our life, all the little things, however that looks. We have a soul-inspired desire, And then we take a faith-based action. Now, if we covet what somebody else has, we short-circuit our own thinking process. We short-circuit our own thinking process every time we fail to see God as the source of our supply. And we're thinking words of limitation, and then we're speaking the words of limitation. Okay, then soon what we're doing is we're investigating dishonorable strategies to get things in our life, to get what we want, not the honorable ones. Okay, so here's our charge, and here's our call to action for this week. We just manage our internal dialogue. That's all, right? That's easy, right? If you're doing complaint-free, yeah, that's what we're doing, though, is we're managing our internal dialogues. We're going to know the minute we're short-circuiting our thought process. We'll know it because we're going to feel it. And what that's going to feel like is, I'm in lack, I'm in limitation, I don't have what I want, they've got what I want, and it's not fair. And things are easy for that person over there, and they're not even really all that nice a person. Why is it so easy for them and not for me? I'm at church every Sunday. I wave and say hi to people. So it just seems like this is just wrong. So we know right away because we don't feel happy. We feel stuck. We feel frustrated. Okay, so we're short-circuited. That's all. So all we have to do is just redirect our focus. If we're feeling limited, if we're feeling frustrated, that's a sign right there. Right? If we're feeling hateful or vengeful or jealous or envious, we're just short-circuited. And all we got to do is just take our focus back to the first commandment. Right? God is the ultimate source of all of our good. The first unity principle. God is all things. Well, and that means me. Okay, we just go there. We focus on the wonders that are God. We focus on the good that's already presented itself here. We focus on the fact that we are created in the image and likeness of our Creator. We're designed to call forth the good in greater and greater amounts. We're designed, that's why that feels good to do that, because that's our design. It's not our design to feel miserable and stuck and frustrated. That's why those don't feel good. Anybody here ever drive a stick shift? Okay, I was just thinking about that. You know how when you grind it into the, right? That grinding sound is because that's not what it was meant to be doing. And that's what's happening in us. We get that grind that sets your teeth on edge. Okay, so here's something to consider. When it feels like someone else has our stuff, okay, consider this. If somebody else has our stuff, and that's what we're thinking, and it feels really unfair, of course, first we recognize, I'm focused on them and my lack of it, and I'm just going to align with God again. But when they have our stuff, what this really represents to us is it's a demonstration that if they can do it, we can do it. If it's been done, it can be done. So if somebody else has done it, and they're experiencing that happiness from it, that means we can also do it. So whatever it is that lights you up, if you want to be traveling, or if you want your dream house, or you want a greenhouse in your backyard, whatever it is that lights you up, and it feels kind of overwhelming to think about it, think on this. Somebody else has already done it. And that means that they did it, that I can do it too. So here's our affirmation for this week. This is a good one, because I want you to make a fist when you say it, okay? I claim my good. I claim my good. Right here, I claim my good. Coveting other things and feeling jealous or envious or dwelling on what other people have done that we haven't done yet, that forms a prison around us, and we end up staying stuck in that feeling of limitation, that feeling of lack. It's the activity of our faith. Okay, what did we just receive in our life? Give back a little more. It is the activity of our faith that makes those prison walls disappear. It just crumbles them, because they're not even real. They're actually not even real. That's a big fat lie we tell ourselves. Our faith is what's calling our good to us. It's calling our good to us. Think about this too. when we're making room in our life for our good to be in our life. We don't have to travel somewhere far, far from here to get our good and bring it back. Through our actions of faith, we're opening up our life to receive that next experience, whatever that experience is. Okay, so remember, we just want to refocus to the first commandment, or the first unity principle. God is all things. God is the source of our good. Because I know all of us just want to be a force for good in our lives. That's what we want to do. We want to be a force for good in our lives, because that means calling forth the good and expanding the good. And we're playing a part in bringing heaven on earth. And we'll start seeing that at least in our own lives. So we'll start seeing that. We're creating a wave that moves out. We're expanding the good. And that is how we are creating heaven on earth. So until next time, remember, you are designed to do all this stuff. You are designed. You don't have to run out and get anything special or order it. You're already designed to call forth the good. You are the hands and the heart of God in this world, and everything you do, you are blessed, and so it is.